Hey folks, just wanted to pull up a lawsuit against a bunch of police officers in the city of Chicago who apparently are being alleged to have committed some police brutality. And unfortunately, the people do not know how to open up lawsuits, and the people do not know how to create a set of facts, and people do not know how to use a word processor to type up a document. But I will, hopefully, that will change, and hopefully, by posting different lawsuits like this on the internet, people can just copy the format, copy the styling, and be able to, if you find yourself or someone that you know in a predicament where you need to go sue somebody or anybody in order to level the playing field so that the people with the guns and the people with the helicopters and the people with the jails and the people and corporations with the money do not have an upper hand over the people. Now, they know how to operate through the law system, and the people do not. So, I'm not encouraging anybody to just file lawsuits against random police officers or the city that you live in, but if you're injured and you're innocent and there's an injury, then certainly it's something that you may want to consider. Now, for those of you that are a little more advanced, you may notice right away that this is in the United States District Court, Northern District of Illinois, Eastern Division, and that this is a complaint. So obviously this is not a common law. This is more of a pro se filing. If you're brand new, don't worry about it right now. But for those of you that would like to do the common law stuff, then you could still learn a lot by reading any and all lawsuits, right? Pulling up and reading any and all lawsuits, this is 17 pages. You still learn, and there's a lot that you will pick up along the way as far as how to craft your case, how to sequence, right? What points to make before the other point so that you're leading whoever reads this to create the same opinion as you have. Okay, so that's a skill that you just develop from reading a lot of lawsuits, and so don't be shy just because this is a pro se U.S. citizen plaintiff suing in the jurisdiction of the democracy United States, that this is not something that you can get a lot of benefit from reading. Okay, I read lawsuits almost every day of all different kinds. You pick up on language, sometimes you pick up on words, you don't understand the words, and you just look them up in a dictionary, or you look them up in a Black's Law dictionary to get the legal definition of the word. So without further ado, we're going to read a couple of pages, and then at the end I'll show you where you can find this and other lawsuits on our website, and where you can download them and just read and pick up and learn. And then obviously if you get more advanced and or need to utilize any of this information and pull things out of it to create something like this on your own, then obviously you can pull this off and convert it to Word and edit it as you see fit. So you're probably going to lose if it's your first diving into the law. If you were arrested and had some injury caused during that scuffle, and you were nonviolent and you did not do anything to provoke it, and you decide to copy this, you're probably going to lose, but it is a learning experience. It's just the nature of the fact that the city of Chicago or the city of New York and the police officers are going to have more skill and influence over the court than you. So you just have to use common sense and know that it's not the person who is wronged that is always going to win. It's the person who knows more about the law and knows how to navigate through court procedure better that is going to win. Unfortunately, that's the way that it is, but hopefully we can help to tip the scales and level the playing field by putting this sort of information out there mostly for free. Okay, so let's read without further ado. So-and-so plaintiff versus City of Chicago, Chicago police officers, their names and badge numbers, and unknown police officers, defendants. Jury trial demanded. Complaint. Now, if this was common law, you would just put claim, or you put verified claim, not complaint. Okay? And you would put your name in upper and lowercase letters, and you would put claimant maybe, and maybe under defendants you would put wrongdoers. Or you can keep it plaintiff defendants, and maybe you would put in pro persona, or maybe you would put your name, comma, a living man. And of course, if you were going into common law court, you would put at the United States District Court, not in the jurisdiction of the United States District Court. Big difference. Anyways, let's just read the complaint the way that it is now, and hopefully I'll learn something, and hopefully we'll all learn something. I'm not going to read the whole 17 pages. Now comes plaintiff George Roberts, in parentheses, Roberts or plaintiff, by his attorney. So this guy even has an attorney. So, but the good thing about reading lawsuits where people have an attorney is that you have a attorney. You have someone who is a lot more legal experienced than you and I, who has probably crafted this complaint and structured it the way that it is. So by you getting public access, this is a public document. This is not in any way, you can't copyright publicly available complaints from federal court records. So you got an attorney's lifetime's worth of work up until this point, and however old he is, probably 30, 40, 50 years old, whatever, crafting up and sequencing the counts in the complaint and the codes, violation of 42 U.S.C. subsection 1983, failure to intervene. What was the other one up here? 42 U.S.C. subsection 1983, conspiracy to commit constitutional violations. So why not copy that and Google that and look that up on Google or anywhere? Look that up. One of the best sites that always pops up is law.cornell.edu. Just one of the best sites when you Google something with any law research. State law claim, false imprisonment. So every time you make a count or a claim, there's certain elements to that. There's certain causes of action. Okay, and you need to include that, so you can learn a lot by reading this attorney's complaint here. So anyways, I don't know how much of this I'm actually going to read out loud. Let's just tell you guys where you can download it. Let's see. Through his attorney, Timothy Fiskella, and complaining of defendants, City of Chicago, Chicago police officers. See, the difference between a complaint and a claim is that a complaint is, I'm just making a complaint to mommy and daddy. It's like your brothers and sisters. Yeah, you're of equal footing, and the parent has authority over you, right? And you're going to, you are going to your parents who have authority over you, and telling them that you're making a complaint against your equal, right? Your brothers or sisters, or you're in a school, right? And you're making a complaint against another student or another series of students that harassed you. When you do a claim in the common law court, you are the highest, you are the sovereign. So it's a different footing and different standing and a whole different court procedure and law forms. And there is some information on the common law claim process, verified claim process as well, on our website and elsewhere. That's floating around out there. Of the complaining, so you would word this differently if you were doing a verified claim, but the plaintiff, by and through his attorney, is complaining of the defendant, City of Chicago, Chicago police officers, and then it names all of them, and an unknown Chicago police officer, referred to as unknown officer, and then we're referring to collectively as defendant officers. So you notice how instead of having to rewrite anywhere in this lawsuit, everybody, we're just going to use the words defendant officers to refer to everybody. And states as follows. So the plaintiff complains against all these people and states as follows. Number one, introduction. This action is brought pursuant to, so you have to cite the authority that you're bringing the action. Otherwise, it'll be dismissed for lack of jurisdiction. You can't just complain, this guy did this to me. You have to cite pursuant to what? Okay? Pursuant to Title 42 of the U.S. Code, subsection 1983, to redress the deprivation under color of law of plaintiff's rights as secured by the United States Constitution. Okay? Very clear, and one sentence, it's telling you in the introduction. So if this is not your complaint or your claim, then do not copy this, but make sure that you learn from this and that you just make your introduction. This action is brought pursuant to, and then blank line, whatever, code, authority, whatever, to redress the blank under blank of claimant or plaintiff's rights, blank. Might say as secured by the United States Constitution, or might say something else. It depends on what violation and redress your action is being brought under. Okay? So that's your introduction. You're always going to have an introduction. Then you're going to have a jurisdiction and venue, and kind of the same thing. It's just short and to the point. We're not telling a story. We're not going. We're not getting into any of that, any of the details just yet. You have to build a case in order of introduction, jurisdiction and venue, the parties, right? Identify who the parties are, and then you go into the background, right? Then you go into the background, and that's where you're really starting to get into the, you start to get into those details. And then you are complaining with the counts of false arrest, right? Excessive force, due process, Brady violation, false imprisonment, conspiracy to commit constitutional violations, failure to intervene, malicious prosecution, assault and battery, intentional infliction of emotional distress. That's not just something that somebody just pulled off the top of your head. That's a very specific legal phrase. Intentional infliction of emotional distress. I mean, there's volumes of books talking about what intentional infliction of emotional distress is, and there's probably hundreds of court cases that define what it is and how much damages you're entitled to, monetarily damages in a civil lawsuit, due to this. Okay, it has to be reasonable. Okay, if the cop had handcuffs on you that were too tight and you asked them to take them off, to loosen them, and you said no, fuck you, and you got a little bruise there for a few days, you can't sue them for millions of dollars. You're not going to be awarded millions of dollars just for that. Okay, but you can prove perhaps that it was intentional, because you requested that, you're cutting off my circulation and the cuffs are too tight. Could you please just loosen them up? Especially if you have no threat of running away or anything like that. You can make a case that it's intentional. Okay? Infliction of emotional distress. There may be a little more than just your handcuffs being too tight, but that is talked about in here. Threatening to shoot or tase plaintiff while pointing weapons at him without any reasonable justification. Without any reasonable justification is a key point. Okay? You notice how that's worded. Okay? Threatening to shoot or tase plaintiff while pointing weapons at him without any reasonable justification. That's the most important part of that sentence. Putting him in extremely tight handcuffs that were not properly locked, so that they continually got tighter and caused more and more pain and discomfort. Refused numerous requests by plaintiffs to loosen them or to use 2 sets of handcuffs. Held plaintiff in custody for several hours in soiled pants while at least one unknown officer walked by his cell and laughed. So that you have to prove that it was intentional, because that's the count. Intentional infliction of emotional distress. So you notice how in each of these points there's an element of intentional, there's an element of something being inflicted, and there's an element of distress that is emotional. You can't miss any one of those in A, B, C, and D without reasonable justification. That's the intentional. I could pinpoint how each 4 of these is included in every bullet point. You just have to really examine the sentences very slowly, carefully, and really look up the definitions of every of the words and really understand the meaning of these things. Refused numerous requests. Okay, refused numerous requests. Held plaintiff in custody for several hours in soiled pants, while at least one unknown officer walked by his cell and laughed. Okay? I guess you could also say you requested to change your pants and they said no. And they laughed and said, no, F you. Okay, we'll get back into this in a minute. After all the counts, there should be a relief requested. Here you go. So it's not titled in bold, but there it is. After the 96 points, wherefore, plaintiff. Now, why are all the points numbered? Right? They're all numbered so that you can identify them later on with ease, right? And you're giving the other side the opportunity to put in an answer and rebut or admit each and every or some of the points. If they don't want to rebut the introduction, if they don't want to rebut the jurisdiction and venue, if they wish to rebut any of the points in the parties or the background that may significantly impair the case moving forward, then they may come up with a reason to do so or an argument to try to do so. So they can put in their answer number 1 and try to rebut that and say, no, this isn't so because of whatever. And that's basically the lawsuit process. You file a complaint, you file a claim, you give the other person a chance to rebut it, and these things have to be done with verified evidence. At some point, there is discovery in these cases. In the common law cases, you throw all the discovery and exhibits in there with your original claim. So that's a difference with that, or one of the differences. But you always want to have relief demanded. Otherwise, there's no, that's a component of jurisdiction, actually. You can't just complain about someone and then say, yep, we just are complaining with 96 points. You have to say what you want. What do you want the court to do for you if it adjudicates that there one or more or all of these counts are correct and that the other parties had due process and opportunity to respond and rebut and have their say and have their arguments, present their facts, present their evidence, and if the court, which is supposed to be an independent third party, rules with you or sides with you in any of the charges or counts or claims, then the court is going to use its authority to execute and provide you with something. It's going to force the other people to pay you, right? So you have to put what your relief requested is. Wherefore, plaintiff. So you could put in another subject header, prayer for relief. Wherefore, plaintiff, so-and-so, George Roberts, respectfully requests that this court enter judgment in his favor and against defendants, City of Chicago, Chicago police officers, blah, 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 awarding compensatory compensation, right? Compensatory damages and attorney's fees, along with punitive damages. If you don't know what that is, Google it, right? Don't just keep reading along. Every time you see something that you're not sure, or that you haven't looked up in the dictionary in a while, pause it, open up the tab, and re-look it up. I'm not going to do that right now in video. I'm trying to make the video kind of short. Along with punitive damages, because there's a difference between punitive damages and actual damages, okay? Against the defendant officers in their individual capacity, as well as any other relief this court deems just and appropriate. So they're not putting an actual dollar figure and saying, I need, $15 million. There's no exact amount, and it's hard. I can understand 96 points and all these different things, violation of your constitutional rights. How do you put a dollar figure on that? That's a little hard to calculate, to do. Although it can be done. It can be done. In some instances, you may not want to do that. And the attorneys for this guy in this case decided not to calculate a total. In common law court, you're going to calculate your own total based on fee schedules and precedents of different cases for people being injured and having their rights violated and things of that nature. So, anyways, suing for money damages and attorney's fees, along with punitive damages. So compensation for fucking me up, basically, and jury demand. Plaintiff hereby demands a jury by trial pursuant to Federal Rules of Procedure 38B on all issues so triable, respectfully submitted by the attorney for the plaintiff. So I plan on grabbing dozens and dozens and dozens of cases, not necessarily all of them, people suing the city or the state or a police officer or anything like that. This just happened to be the first one I pulled up. But I feel that people reading actual lawsuits on a regular basis is one of the most important things one can do to further educate themselves and empower themselves about the law and to level the playing field. Let's say you have a business partner that screws you over and steals money from you. Let's say that you get into a car accident and you don't want to go through insurance and you want to sue them for millions of dollars instead of take a small insurance payout. Let's say there's endless amount of things. Don't you want to be well prepared, even if you do hire a lawyer? Don't you want to be knowledgeable and experienced at the lawsuit process, the court procedure process, or at least just reading the initial? I think the main thing is just reading the initial. Well, there's a couple things. There's the court procedure process and knowing how to navigate through that, which the How to Win in Court process is really good at. If you go to our site, understandcontractlawandyowin.com, and go to products and then scroll down to How to Win in Court, there's a great product that teaches you the court procedure process very, very well. It's not our product, but we link over to the product. It's about $250. It teaches you the court procedure process, so that'll teach you that, and then just getting complaints that people file and answers to complaints, and just reading just those documents is so powerful. It's probably the number one thing you can do, along with having a legal dictionary at your side and looking up any words and things that you don't know. So search engine or a legal dictionary, reading complaints, and getting that How to Win in Court CD-ROM course is three very, very, very powerful things. So we will put a lot more complaints and common law claim examples on our site, probably under free education. We'll either put under free documents, or I might add a new tab that says sample lawsuits or something like that. And it is April 1st, 2016. So just check back on our site later on in April or maybe in May, and if you get on our free announcement list, we'll send some. We send a lot of stuff that we don't post on the site, and we invite our members on our email list to conference calls and private invitation-only webinars as well. Okay? So if you want to get more empowered, if you want to get more educated, the people need to rise up with their education, not with violence. You know, this whole Black Lives Matter thing, originally when I saw it, I got a little excited and said, oh, the people are actually rising up and the people aren't taking shit anymore from people being shot by cops, unarmed men, mostly unarmed black men being shot by cops. You know, that's not okay. So I thought that movement originally was, oh, people are rising up. Unfortunately, that movement is coming from the top down. It's coming from a white billionaire named George Soros, who's basically single-handedly funding the Black Lives Matter movement in order to support the New World Order's divide and conquer, the Illuminati's divide and conquer strategy to create a racial tensions and racial war as a pretext for when the economy crashes in America. It's a pretext for martial law and an increased militarized police state and the erosion of people's liberties and civil liberties. So don't buy into the nonsense. A lot of the people and what the people are upset about is fantastic, but as you can see, they're rioting in the streets and setting cars and on fire and destroying businesses and things like that, and that's not a legitimate form of protest. But the mainstream media, who's in on making the movement look legitimate, is calling it, quote, protests, and they're invading Trump rallies, causing a lot of violence, and then blaming that Trump is causing violence at his rallies. It's the crazy people invading his rallies that are agitators and causing a ruckus and disrupting those rallies, and it's just meant to divide and conquer, folks. So burning cars in the middle of the street and destroying businesses' windows, and taking guns and robbing businesses and taking money from the cash register and all sorts of things like this is not the answer. Okay? The answer is to be nonviolent. The answer is to educate yourself, educate your community. The answer is to learn the law and level the playing field. If somebody does something to you, if somebody shoots your family member without good cause and kills them, then open up a lawsuit with them. Open up a lawsuit against them. And I mean, it's a shame, if someone gets killed. But rioting in the streets and looting and killing people and flipping over cars is not really going to bring someone's life back, and it's really not going to solve any problems, and it's injuring other people's property. It could be injuring or destroying people's property who actually support you and sympathize with you and might donate money to your legal defense to sue the individuals that committed the police brutality against your friend, your family member, a member of your community. So don't be so quick to just damage people's property, no matter what their race, no matter what their, situation is. Okay, so these people need to calm down a little, and they need to get armed with lawsuits. Okay, so use the law. The pen is mightier than flipping over cars and starting fires to them. So I'll end on that. I will post this and some other suits up on the website, either under free education, either under free documents or under another tab. If you are nonviolent and looking to educate and empower yourself so that corporations and people with guns and helicopters can't boss you around and beat the crap out of you without any repercussions, then get on our email list as well, and hopefully we'll be talking with you sometime soon.